The cargo ship Horizon's Edge drifted through the dark space between stars. Captain sat in his chair on the bridge, watching the stars pass by on the view screen. His ship was small and old, carrying nothing but food supplies and medical equipment to a human colony 3 days away. 6 crew members worked with him, and they had done this route 100 times before. It was boring work, but it was honest work. Lee, the ship's engineer, called from the engine room. "Captain, we have company. 3 ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel behind us." Leaned forward. "Can you identify them?" "Running the scan now," said. Her voice changed, becoming tense. "Oh no, they're in Hunter ships." Everyone on the bridge went quiet. The men were famous across the galaxy. They were 8 feet tall with 4 arms, razor-sharp claws, and thick armored skin. They had hunted and conquered dozens of species over the centuries. They were the apex predators of known space, and everyone feared them. Dr. Jin Park, the ship's doctor and scientist, spoke up. "Maybe they'll just pass us by. We're not worth their time." But then ships moved closer. A message came through on the communication system. A deep, growling voice filled the bridge. "Human vessel, you will stop your engines. We are coming aboard." Looked at his crew. They were scared, but they trusted him. He pressed the button to respond. "We are a cargo ship. We have nothing of value. Please let us pass." The men laughed. It was a terrible sound. "Everything has value, your ship, your cargo, your lives. Stop now or we will tear your ship apart." Had no choice. He stopped the engines. Within minutes, a boarding tube connected to the side of the Horizon's Edge. The doors opened with a hiss, and the men came through. There were 5 of them. They had to bend down to fit through the human-sized corridors. Their leader was massive, even for a N. His name was L, and he wore the scars of 100 hunts across his chest. He looked at the humans with his 4 yellow eyes and smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "So small," L said. "So weak, soft skin, no claws, no armor. How do your kind survive in this galaxy?" Stood his ground, even though his heart was beating fast. "We survive just fine. Take what you want and leave." L walked closer. He was nearly twice height. "I have heard of humans, new to the galaxy, prey animals who somehow learned to build ships. I wanted to see for myself." He extended one of his 4 arms and grabbed by the shirt, lifting him off the ground with ease. "Let us test this. You and me. Combat. If you survive even 1 minute, I will let your crew live." The other and hunters laughed. Crew started to move forward, but he raised his hand to stop them. "Everyone stay back," he ordered. He looked at L. "Fine, put me down and let's do this." L threw across the corridor, hit the wall hard and fell to the floor. Pain shot through his back, but he forced himself to stand up. They encircled him like a cat playing with a mouse. "Your kind evolved from tree climbers," L said. "We evolved from apex hunters. This will be quick." L charged forward, all 4 arms reaching out to tear apart, but was already moving. He dove to the side at the last second, and L's claws hit the metal wall, sparking. Rolled and grabbed a loose pipe from a damaged panel. It wasn't much, but it was something. L roared and charged again. This time didn't dodge. He stepped forward and swung the pipe hard at L's knee joint. The metal rang out and L stumbled. It didn't hurt him much, but it surprised him. "You fight with tools," L said. "Coward." "I fight to win," replied. They circled each other again. L was stronger and had more weapons, but was faster, and he knew his ship. When L charged a 3rd time, led him toward a low-hanging pipe. L had to duck, and in that moment of distraction, kicked hard at his leg again. This time, L went down on 1 knee. The other and stopped laughing. Their leader had never been brought to his knees by prey before. L's eyes burned with rage. He swept out with 2 arms, catching and sending him flying again, crashed into a wall and tasted blood in his mouth. His ribs screamed in pain, but he got up again, and again. Every time L knocked him down, stood back up. "Why don't you die?" L roared. "You should be broken." Smiled through bloody teeth. "Humans don't break easy." 1 minute had passed, then 2, then 3, was bleeding and bruised, but he was still standing. He kept moving, kept dodging, kept using every trick he knew. He grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed it in L's eyes. He used the narrow corridors to his advantage, making it hard for the big alien to use all 4 arms. L was breathing hard now, something he had never done in a hunt before. This small human was wearing him down. The prey was acting like a predator. Finally, L held up a hand. "Enough," he said. "You have survived, but this is not over, human. We will see what your kind is truly made of." The N retreated back to their ships, but they didn't leave. They stayed close, watching and waiting, collapsed against the wall and rushed to help him. "Call for help," said. "Send out a distress beacon. Maximum range. This isn't over." As the crew worked frantically, L sat in his command chair on his ship, staring at the small cargo vessel. For the first time in his long life as a hunter, he had felt something new during a hunt. He had felt uncertain, and that made him very, very angry. L paced on his command deck. His pride was wounded. No prey had ever lasted that long against him. He looked at his hunting pack, 4 other warriors who had seen the entire fight. They were quiet, uncertain. He could not allow this weakness to spread. "We go back," L announced. "We will board the human ship again and finish this properly. This time we hunt them all." Back on the horizon's edge, Dr. Jin was patching up Captain's wounds. 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and cuts everywhere, but was alive and conscious. "How long until help arrives?" asked through gritted teeth. Checked her console. "The nearest human military ship is 6 hours away. We sent the distress signal, but we're deep in neutral space. They're coming as fast as they can." Lieutenant, the security officer, entered the medical bay. He was a big man, former military, with scars of his own. "Captain, the UN ships are moving again. They're coming back." Forced himself to stand, ignoring the pain. "Everyone listen. We have 6 hours to survive. I need you to rig anything explosive you can find. Get every crew member armed with whatever we have. Jin, I need you on the communication system. We're going to make them think we're more dangerous than we are." The crew moved fast, ran to the engine room and started pulling apart power cells and fuel containers. She could make them explode with the right trigger. Handed out tools, pipes, and the ship's 2 emergency plasma cutters. They weren't weapons, but they would have to do. The onboarding tube connected again. This time, all 5 hunters came through at once. They spread out through the ship, moving through the corridors with practiced efficiency. They were not playing games anymore. This was a real hunt. El sniffed the air. "I smell your fear, humans. Come out and face us with honor." But no one came out. The ship was quiet except for the hum of the engines. One of the hunters, named, moved toward the engine room. He was younger than L, but just as deadly. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. The room was dark, lit only by the glow of the power core. He moved deeper in, searching. Something clinked on the floor near his feet. Looked down and saw a small device. Before he could react, it exploded. The blast wasn't huge, but in the enclosed space, it threw him against the wall. Warning alarms screamed as fire spread across the engine room floor. His voice came over the ship's speakers. "That's one. Who's next?" El roared in fury. "Find them, kill them all." The men split up, each one hunting through different sections of the ship. But the humans had turned the horizon's edge into a maze of traps and ambushes. Every corridor had been prepared. Every room had become a potential kill zone. In the cargo bay, another unnamed found lieutenant waiting for him, held a plasma cutter in each hand. The space was tight, full of cargo containers that blocked movement. Couldn't use his size advantage here. "Come on then," said. "Let's see how tough you really are." Charged forward, claws extended, but didn't run. He dodged behind a container and activated both plasma cutters, slicing through the supports holding a massive crate above them. The crate fell, and had to use all 4 arms to catch it and push it away. In that moment, struck with the plasma cutters, scoring deep burns across his arm. Screamed and swung wildly. He was stronger but kept moving, kept using the environment, kept attacking and retreating. Minutes passed, then 10 minutes, then 20, was bleeding and exhausted. He had never fought prey that kept coming like this. Throughout the ship, the same story played out. The humans refused to fight fair. They used every trick, every trap, every advantage they could find. When I cornered one human, 2 more would appear from behind. When the N tried to group up, the humans would scatter and attack from new directions. Dr. Jin's voice came over the speakers again. "You're tired, aren't you? We can hear it in your breathing. Do you know why? We evolved on a planet where we hunted prey by chasing it for days. We would follow animals until they collapsed from exhaustion. We didn't need claws or armor. We just needed to keep going. And we never stop." El heard these words and felt something cold in his chest. Fear. Real fear. His hunting pack was scattered, wounded, and tired. They had been on this small ship for over an hour and the humans were still fighting. Another explosion rocked the ship. One of his hunters, Vex, had triggered another trap. When El reached him, Vex was badly wounded, barely conscious. "Retreat," El ordered into his communicator. "Back to the boarding tube, we retreat." It was the first time in his life he had given such an order. The N pulled back, dragging their wounded with them. When they reached their ships and disconnected the boarding tubes, they counted their losses. 1 dead, 3 wounded, all of them exhausted, and the humans were still alive. Captain watched from the bridge as the ships moved away. His crew was wounded and tired, but they were alive. He pressed the communication button. "El, this is Captain, your apex predators, the best hunters in the galaxy, but you hunt for sport and glory. We evolved to survive. That's the difference." El stared at the human ship on his screen. He said nothing. There was nothing to say. "Our military ships will be here in 4 hours, continued. "You can stay and fight them if you want, but I think you already know how that will end. You hunt alone for honor. We fight together for survival. You can't win against that." For a long moment the ship stayed where they were. Then, slowly, they began to move away. But before they jumped to faster-than-light speed, El sent one message. "This is not over, human. My people will hear of this. The hierarchy will respond." "Let them come," said. "We'll be ready." Then ships vanished in a flash of light. The horizon's edge was alone again, battered but intact. The crew gathered on the bridge, looking at each other in disbelief. They had survived. Against the most feared hunters in the galaxy, they had survived. Started laughing, almost crying at the same time. Leaned against the wall, exhausted. Dr. Jin just shook his head in amazement. "Captain," Jin said quietly, "I think we just started something big." Nodded. He knew Jin was right. The galaxy thought humans were weak prey animals. But today they had learned something different. And once word got out, everything would change. The human military ships arrived exactly when they said they would. 3 vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the horizon's edge. The largest was a destroyer called the Defiant, commanded by Commander Song. 2 smaller frigates, the Aurora and the Tempest, flanked it on either side. Commander Song was known throughout the human fleet as someone who never backed down from a fight. She had short black hair, sharp eyes, and a reputation for aggressive tactics. When she saw the damage to the horizon's edge, her expression went cold. "Captain, this is Commander Song. Report." Explained everything that had happened. When he finished, there was a long silence on the communication line. "They're still in the area," finally said. "Our sensors show 12 in ships about 3 million kilometers away. They're just sitting there watching us." "What are your orders, Commander?" asked. "My orders are to protect human ships and citizens. Those that attacked you, they don't get to just fly away." Turned to her crew. "All ships, battle formation. We're going to have a conversation with our new friends." On his command ship, L watched as the human military vessels approached. He had sent messages to the hierarchy, telling them about these strange prey animals that fought like predators. But the hierarchy had responded with mockery. They said he was weak. They said he had shamed their people by retreating from prey. Now he had 12 ships under his command. The hierarchy demanded he erase this shame. He had to destroy the humans or never return home. 3 ships, his second-in-command said. We have 12, this will be easy. But L wasn't so sure anymore. He had learned something on that cargo ship. These humans were different from anything they had hunted before. The human ship stopped just outside weapons range. A communication came through. It was Commander Song. And vessels, this is Commander Song of the human destroyer Defiant. You attacked a civilian cargo ship in neutral space. That's an act of war. You will surrender your ships for inspection, or we will open fire. L's crew laughed, 12 ships against 3. The humans were insane. Human Commander, L responded. You do not have the strength to make such demands. We are the apex hunters, you are nothing. Wrong answer, said, and cut the communication. The battle began instantly. The ships charged forward in a wedge formation, their traditional hunting pattern. They relied on overwhelming force and direct assault. It had worked for centuries against every species they had fought. But the human ships didn't charge back. Instead, they scattered in 3 different directions. The Defiant went high, the Aurora went left, and the Tempest went right. The formation had to split up to chase them. L realized his mistake immediately. The humans had broken his hunting pack apart. The Defiant led 4 ships on a chase through an asteroid field. The human destroyer weaved between the rocks with incredible precision. 2 ships crashed into asteroids trying to follow. The other 2 kept coming. Then the Aurora appeared from behind a large asteroid and fired at full power. The surprise attack destroyed 1 ship instantly. The second tried to turn, but the Defiant spun around and fired from the front. Caught between 2 human ships, it was torn apart. 4 ships destroyed in less than 3 minutes. L screamed orders. Reform, group together, don't let them separate us. But the humans were already moving to their next target. The Tempest was facing 5 ships alone. It looked like suicide. The ships fired everything they had, but the Tempest was faster than it should have been. It dodged and rolled, its shields absorbing hits that should have destroyed it. Then fighter craft launched from the Tempest. Small, fast ships piloted by humans who flew like they were born in space. 1 pilot lieutenant led the formation. His fighter dove straight at the largest ship, firing as he went. The ship's shields held but didn't pull away. He kept diving. What are you doing? The Tempest captain shouted over the communication. Winning, replied. At the last second, ejected from his fighter. The unmanned craft smashed into the ship's bridge at full speed. The explosion tore through the command center and the ship went dark, spinning out of control. The other human fighters swarmed the remaining 4 ships like angry hornets. They coordinated perfectly, covering each other, focusing fire on weak points. 1 by 1, the ships were disabled. L watched in horror as his hunting pack was torn apart. The humans didn't fight like individuals seeking glory. They fought like a pack, like the ancient wolves of there. Every move was coordinated, every attack supported by another. When 1 human ship was in trouble, the others would sacrifice their own position to save it. Only 3 ships remained now, including L's command ship. He tried to retreat, but the human ships surrounded them. And Commander, Song's voice came through again. Surrender now, you've lost. Never, L growled. We are hunters, we do not surrender to prey. We're not prey, said coldly. We're the ones who hunted the hunters on our world. We killed the wolves and the lions and the bears. We killed everything that threatened us. You're just next on the list. She ordered her ships to fire. L's ship rocked under the assault. His shields failed. His weapons were disabled. His ship was dying around him. "Stand down," a voice shouted. It was one of L's own warriors. The N had never before, but they had never faced total defeat before either. L slumped in his command chair. They had lost. 12 ships against 3, and they had lost. The human ships docked with the 3 remaining N vessels. Marines boarded and took the surviving N into custody. On the Defiant, Commander brought L to a holding cell where Dr. Jin Park was waiting. The doctor from the cargo ship looked at the massive alien hunter. "I told you on my ship," Jin said quietly. "We evolved to chase prey for days until it collapsed. We evolved to work in groups. We evolved to use tools and tactics. You hunt alone for glory and honor. We hunt in packs for survival. That's why we won. That's why we'll always win." L said nothing. What could he say? Everything he believed about his species being the apex predators had been proven wrong. These small, soft humans had beaten him twice. They had destroyed his hunting pack. They had shown him that there were different kinds of predators in the galaxy. Commander looked at L through the cell door. "We're sending you home. You're going to tell your hierarchy what happened here. You're going to tell them that humans are not prey. We're not interested in your territory or your worlds. But if you attack us again, we will respond. And next time, we won't take prisoners." She turned and walked away, leaving L alone with his shame and his new understanding of what humans truly were. News of the battle spread through the galaxy like wildfire. The N, the most feared predator species in known space, had been defeated by humans. The other species in the Galactic Coalition watched and whispered. Some were impressed. Others were worried. But everyone was paying attention to humanity now. On the N, the hierarchy gathered in their great hall. Prime Hunter sat on his throne, a massive alien covered in the scars of 1,000 hunts. He was old, powerful, and furious. Around him, the other leaders of the N people stood in silence. L knelt before them, his head bowed in shame. He had returned home to face judgment for his failure. "You lost 12 ships to 3, said, his voice like grinding stone. "You retreated from prey not once but twice. You have brought shame to our entire species." "The humans are not prey," L said quietly. "They are predators, different from us but predators nonetheless. We must reconsider our approach." Stood up from his throne and walked down the steps toward L. The old hunter towered over him. "Reconsider. You want us to fear these small, weak creatures. No, you have simply grown soft. The hierarchy has decided. We will send a war fleet to human space. We will destroy their colony worlds. We will show the galaxy that the N are still the apex predators. And you will lead this fleet. You will restore your honor or you will die trying." L looked up. "How many ships?" 200 said. "We will overwhelm them with numbers they cannot match. There will be no clever tactics, no traps, just pure, brutal force." Across the galaxy, humanity learned of the coming attack. The Galactic Coalition sent messages warning them that a massive fleet was being assembled. The target was the human colony world of New Sol, home to 150,000 settlers. Ambassador tried desperately to negotiate. She was an older woman, a diplomat who had spent her life building bridges between species. She requested a meeting with the hierarchy. Agreed to meet her, but only to mock her. Ambassador said through the communication screen, "Your kind should have stayed in your small corner of the galaxy. You challenged us. You defeated our hunters. You made us look weak. For this, you will pay." Prime Hunter, please, said, "We don't want war. The attack on our cargo ship was a misunderstanding. Our response was self-defense. We can move past this." "There is no moving past this," growled. "Honor demands blood, and honor demands human blood. Our fleet launches in 3 days. Evacuate your colony if you wish. We will destroy your ships and burn your cities regardless." The communication ended, sat in her office and put her face in her hands. She had failed. War was coming. On the human military command station, Admiral Han Ryu studied the tactical displays. He was a veteran of many small conflicts, but nothing like this. 200 warships against the 45 ships he had available. The math was impossible. Captain stood next to him, had been promoted and given a new command after his encounter with the N. His ship, a fast frigate called the Pioneer, was part of Han's fleet. "We need to evacuate New Seoul," one of the other officers said. "We can't win this fight." "If we evacuate, where do they go?" Han asked. "The next closest human colony is weeks away, and what happens when they'll follow them there? Do we abandon that world too? How many worlds do we give up before we make a stand?" "But Admiral, 200 ships." "I know the numbers," Han said sharply. He looked at the display showing New Seoul. The planet was beautiful, with blue oceans and green continents. People had built homes there. Children had been born there. It was humanity's first real colony world outside their home system. "We hold the line here," Han said. "Send a message to the colonists. Tell them what's coming. Give them the option to evacuate if they want, but also tell them that we're staying. We're going to fight." The message went out. The people of New Seoul had 48 hours to decide. Some chose to leave on civilian ships, but most stayed. They armed themselves with hunting rifles, farming tools, and improvised weapons. If the end came to their world, they would face not just the military but every man and woman willing to fight for their home. Commander Song brought the Defiant to New Seoul along with her battle group. More ships arrived every hour. 45 became 50, then 55. Ships came from Earth, from Mars, from the mining colonies in the asteroid belt. Some were military vessels. Others were civilian ships with weapons strapped to their hulls. Every human who could hold a gun or fly a ship was coming to New Seoul. Engineer Lee arrived on the Defiant with a team of scientists. She had been working on something since the first battle with the N. She had studied the wreckage of their ships and found something interesting. "Admiral," said, showing Han her data, "the power cores have a flaw. They're incredibly powerful but unstable. If we target them with precisely calibrated plasma bursts, we can cause chain reactions. One shot in the right place and their ships will tear themselves apart from the inside." Han looked at the data. It was risky and would require perfect accuracy in the middle of a battle, but it was a chance. "How many ships can we refit with this targeting system?" he asked. "All of them if we have enough time," said. "We have 36 hours before the fleet arrives." "Then we have 36 hours to work," Han said. "Get started." The fleet worked around the clock. Every ship was upgraded with new targeting system. Fighter pilots practiced the precise attacks they would need to make. Marines on the ground prepared defensive positions around every major city on New Seoul. Captain stood on the bridge of the Pioneer and watched the preparations. Lieutenant, the fighter pilot who had rammed the ship in the last battle, came to stand next to him. "We're really doing this," said, "fighting a fleet 4 times our size." "We don't have a choice," replied. "But we have something they don't. We have a reason to fight. They're fighting for honor and glory. We're fighting for our homes, our families, our survival. That makes all the difference." Above New Seoul, the human fleet formed up. 57 ships in total, ranging from massive dreadnoughts to small corvettes. It wasn't enough. Everyone knew it wasn't enough, but they would make it enough. On the surface, the colonists looked up at the stars and waited. They knew what was coming. They knew the odds, but they weren't running. They were human, and humans didn't run from a fight when their homes were at stake. In deep space, the war fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. 200 ships, the largest fleet they had assembled in decades. L stood on the bridge of the flagship, knowing that his honor and his life depended on victory. The battle for New Seoul was about to begin. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the New Seoul system. 200 massive warships, their hulls covered in hunting trophies from 100 conquered worlds. They moved forward in perfect formation, a wall of death coming toward the small human colony. Admiral Han Ryu watched them approach on the tactical display. His 57 ships looked tiny in comparison, but he showed no fear on his face. His crew needed to see strength right now. "All ships, this is Admiral Han. Hold formation. Wait for my command." The fleet continued forward, confident and unstoppable. On the flagship, Prime Hunter stood next to L. The old hunter wanted to witness this victory personally. "There," said, pointing at the display. "So few ships. This will be over quickly, perhaps too quickly. I wanted them to suffer longer for their insult." L said nothing. He had fought these humans before. He knew they were dangerous, but orders were orders. He gave the command to attack. Then ships opened fire at maximum range. Hundreds of plasma bolts and missiles streaked through space toward the human fleet. The humans scattered, just like they had in the previous battle. But this time, there were too many in ships. The humans couldn't avoid everything. 3 human ships were destroyed in the first minute, then 5 more. The human fleet was taking heavy losses, and the real fight hadn't even started yet. "All ships executes protocol," Admiral Han ordered. The human ships stopped retreating. Instead, they charged forward into the formation. It looked like suicide. The ships fired again and again, destroying more human vessels. But the humans kept coming, and now they were firing back with their new targeting system. The first ship to die exploded from the inside. Its power core went critical, and the blast tore the ship apart. Then another, and another. The humans were targeting the weak points had discovered, and it was working. But it wasn't enough. For every ship destroyed, the humans lost 2 of their own. The numbers were against them. Within the first hour, 20 human ships were gone. The N had lost only 30. On the surface of New Seoul, the colonists watched the battle in the sky. They could see the explosions, even from the ground. They knew their defenders were dying up there. Then a landing craft began to descend. 50 ships broke away from the main fleet and headed toward the planet's surface. They were coming to destroy the cities and kill the colonists. But the colonists were ready. As the ships landed and their warriors poured out, they were met with gunfire from every building, every street corner, every alley. 150,000 civilians, armed and organized, fought back. Then warriors were used to seeing prey run in fear. These humans ran toward them, screaming and firing weapons. When the N tried their traditional hunting tactics, they found that humans had turned entire city blocks into kill zones. Snipers on rooftops, explosive traps in the streets, ambushes around every corner. A warrior named found himself pinned down in a shopping district by a group of human farmers. They weren't soldiers. They were people who grew food for a living. But they fought with a desperate fury that shocked him. When his squad tried to regroup, human children threw homemade explosives from windows. When they tried to retreat, human elders blocked their escape routes with burning vehicles. In space, the battle continued to rage. Admiral Han's fleet was down to 37 ships. The N still had 140. The math said the humans would lose, but the humans weren't following the math. Captain, piloting the Pioneer, coordinated with Commander Song on the Defiant. They had developed a new tactic. Instead of fighting ship to ship, they were targeting the command structure. Every time they identified a flagship or command vessel, they focused all their fire on it. Kill the leader, and the pack becomes confused. It was working. The fleet was powerful but rigid. When their commanders died, the remaining ships had trouble adapting. The humans, by contrast, had no central command. Every captain knew the plan and could operate independently. When one human ship was destroyed, the others adjusted and kept fighting. Lieutenant led his fighter squadron in another desperate attack. His fighter was damaged, leaking fuel, but he kept flying. He targeted a massive dreadnought and fired every weapon he had at its power core. The shields held. He fired again, still not enough. "Pull back," his voice came over the communication. "Your ship is too damaged." "One more run," said, "I can make it." He dove toward the dreadnought, pushing his dying fighter to its limit. Then ship fired at him, but he dodged with skills born from thousands of hours of training. He got close, so close he could see the armor plating on the enemy ship. He fired everything he had left. The dreadnought's power core destabilized. The explosion was massive, destroying not just the dreadnought but two other ships nearby. Ejected at the last second, his escape pod spinning away from the blast. On the N flagship, watched in growing horror as his fleet was being torn apart. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. They had overwhelming numbers. They had superior firepower. But the humans just kept fighting. Every time a human ship was destroyed, the survivors fought harder. Every time it looked like the humans would break, they found a way to strike back. "They fight like they have nothing to lose," said to El. "They don't," El replied. "That's their home planet below us. Those are their families. They're not fighting for honor or glory. They're fighting for survival. That makes them more dangerous than any predator we've ever faced." On the surface, the ground forces were retreating. They had lost half their warriors to the colonist defense. The humans just wouldn't stop. Old men and young women, farmers and teachers, everyone fought with a ferocity that the N couldn't match. In space, Admiral Han made a decision. His fleet was down to 25 ships. The N had 90 left. They were going to lose unless he did something dramatic. "All ships ramming formation," Han ordered. "Anyone with a critical damage, you know what to do." 7 human ships, too damaged to continue fighting effectively, turned toward the N fleet at full speed. Their crews evacuated to other vessels, leaving skeleton pilots to guide them. The ships accelerated, faster and faster, heading straight for the largest N vessels. The N tried to shoot them down, but the damaged ships were small and fast. When they hit, the explosions were catastrophic. 7 N capital ships destroyed in moments. It was in that moment that realized the truth. The humans would never surrender. They would fight until every ship was destroyed, until every person was dead. They would take as many N with them as possible. This wasn't a battle for territory or resources. This was a fight for existence, and humans who fought for existence were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. "Retreat," ordered. El turned to him in shock. "Prime Hunter, we still have more ships." "I said retreat," roared. "Look at them. They're willing to die to the last person. If we continue, we might win, but it will cost us everything. We've already lost 90 ships. How many more will we lose? 100, 150. And for what? To defeat one human colony." He activated the fleet-wide communication. "All N ships withdraw. We are leaving this system." The remaining N ships began to pull back. On the human vessels, crews cheered and cried. They had won. Against impossible odds, they had won. 6 months later, an ambassador ship arrived at the Galactic Coalition headquarters. El, now an ambassador rather than a hunter, requested a meeting with the human delegation. Captain, now promoted to admiral, met with him in a neutral meeting room. Ambassador was there as well. "We come to request peace," El said. The words were difficult for him, but he said them. "The hierarchy acknowledges that humanity is not prey. You are warriors, predators. We wish to end hostilities." Smiled, "We accept. We never wanted war in the first place." El looked at, "I must know, how did prey become predators? We are larger, stronger, have more weapons. How did you defeat us?" Leaned back in his chair. "You keep calling us prey, but we were never prey. On our home world Earth, we were the apex predators. We hunted mammoths that weighed 10 tons. We hunted cave lions and bears. We hunted everything. If we couldn't kill it with strength, we killed it with tools. If we couldn't kill it with tools, we hunted it until it collapsed from exhaustion. If we couldn't kill it alone, we worked together. We learned to adapt, to persist, to survive no matter what. That's what made us apex predators on Earth, and that's what makes us dangerous now." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the stars. "You evolved on a world where you were the top predators from the beginning. You never had to struggle for survival. You never had to overcome creatures bigger and stronger than you, but we did. Every single day, our ancestors faced things that could kill them, and they won. That's in our blood. That's who we are. El was silent for a long moment. Then he bowed his head slightly, a sign of respect and in culture. The galaxy underestimated your species. We thought you were weak because you looked weak. We were wrong. The galaxy will learn, said. Humans are here now. We're not going anywhere. And anyone who threatens us will learn the same lesson you did. Outside the meeting room, the Galactic Coalition members watched. Humanity had taken its place among the stars, not as victims or prey, but as the predators that had climbed to the top of the food chain on one of the most dangerous planets in the galaxy. The apex species no one saw coming had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.